It is my pleasure to finally get to host this show. I've always wanted to, and now I am. Thank you. Today we'll be comparing the realism and historical accuracy of the films Das Boot and U-571. First, let's explore what is meant by realism and historical accuracy. Realism is how realistic or close to reality something is. Historical accuracy is how close something follows the actual history. To begin our comparison, let's look at the two movies that are being compared today. The first film, Das Boot, is a film directed by Wolfgang Petersen. The film synopsis is as follows. It is 1942 and the German submarine fleet is heavily engaged in the so-called Battle of the Atlantic to harass and destroy British shipping. With better escorts of the destroyer class, however, German U-boats have begun to take heavy losses. Das Boot is the story of one such U-boat crew, with the film examining how these submariners maintained their professionalism as soldiers and attempted to accomplish impossible missions, all the while attempting to understand and obey the ideology of the government under which they are serving. Das Boot was released in 1981 and was received very well, grossing $84,973,337 worldwide. The film accomplished the feat of drawing American moviegoers into caring about the most hated villains that exist, Nazi soldiers. The second film is U-571, directed by Jonathan Mostow. The film's storyline is as follows. In the midst of World War II, the battle below the seas rage. The Nazis have the upper edge as the Allies are unable to crack their war codes. That is, until a wrecked U-boat sends out an SOS signal and the Allies realize this is their chance to seize the Enigma coding machine. But masquerading as Nazis and taking over the U-boat is the smallest of their problems. The action really begins when they get stranded on the U-boat. The film was received extremely well, raking in $127,666,415,000 worldwide. As a last note, both films were successful at the awards, with U-571 being nominated for Best Sound and winning the Oscar for Best Sound Editing. There's no doubt the sound editing played a monumental role in the realism of the film. Das Boot did not come home with an Oscar but was nominated for Best Director, Best Writing, Best Cinematography, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Effects. Now, let's dive into these two films. First, we are going to compare the historical accuracy between the two films. Das Boot from early production was to be an extremely accurate film. It flirts with the level of documentary it is so good. The first item to look at is whether the story fits into history correctly. Das Boot takes place in October of 1941. This fits right into the window of World War II and the height of the Battle of the Atlantic. The film follows the German submarine U-96. While the film is not based off an exact submarine doing a specific task, the film conveys what a daily routine would be like for a German submarine crew in the 1940s. The crew in Das Boot conducts attacks on British convoys, endures depth charge attacks, and insane odds. Overall, while the film was not directly based off a single submarine's adventures, it very well could have been due to its extreme realism and the general events the sub encounters. Next, let's take a look at the historical accuracy of U-571. The American war flick was not near as honest when it came to the historical accuracy department. The film begins with a rehashing of the U-110 capture. The event in the film is solely American operations, when in fact the mission was an exclusively British operation. In reality, the daring assignment involved British personnel from the HMS Bulldog boarding the German U-110 in the North Atlantic. For reference, the Bulldog was a destroyer, not a submarine like in the film. Although the purpose of this film is entertainment, not everyone joined the storyline. Included in this was former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Blair went as far as to calling the film an affront to British sailors. The real issue with what Mostow and company did was it undermines what the brave men who actually partook in the capture of the U-110 accomplished, and could even give people the wrong impression on history. The name of the U-boat that the Americans take over was even a very odd choice. German submarine U-571 was actually never captured but sunk off the Irish coast in 1944. Now that we have established the historical accuracy for both of the films, let's dive into the realism of the films, which is where the submarine film genre tends to thrive or end up sitting on the bottom of the ocean forgotten. First, we are going to continue our analysis of U-571. U-571 did a relatively shaky job when it came to realism, especially considering just how far-fetched some of the film is. First, U-571 features an aspect that most would not expect when watching a submarine movie: close-quarter firearm combat. One of the pivotal scenes in the film is when the Americans are boarding the German submarine. This set of action sequences is done quite poorly. The action proceeds as a series of set pieces, lots of gunfire, and explosions, some supplied via digitized effects that are surprisingly cheesy. A lot of the special effects in the film in general are not done near as well as expected for a war flick, with the explosions often looking extremely fake. Another major mistake when it came to the realism was when the Americans have successfully captured U-571. As the German soldiers are being sorted onto the American submarine, the real German supply submarine arrives at the scene. The submarine proceeds to then straight up torpedo the American sub. While on the surface this does not stand out to be too far-fetched, however, when you take a closer look it becomes ridiculous. There's absolutely no possible way the other German submarine could recognize what was happening and target and destroy the correct submarine. On top of this, in the film, this is all occurring in the middle of the night in a driving rainstorm. There are two other major realism flaws. The first, the fact that an American crew could effectively operate a German submarine is very outlandish, even with a German speaker among them. While an American and German submarine would not be completely different, there would be plenty of variations that would throw off the American crew, and they would not have any chance of operating the sub, especially as they are being hunted by the other German sub early on in the film. The second major flaw is the simple fact that a crew of about 10 American submariners could operate a full German submarine effectively. In general, submarine crews were made of about 80 men, not 10. The American crew would not have the manpower to operate the sub. Now, let's head over to Das Boot and take a look at the realism. This film could serve as actual footage, it is so real. To begin, the photography of the movie makes the film extremely realistic. That was all thanks to Peterson's director of photography, Joost van Cano. Van Cano changed how things were done. He developed a new technique simply holding the camera in front of him as he raced down the metal corridors of the submarine. This type of shooting allows for the audience to feel like they are right in that sub with these young men fending for their lives. To add an extreme amount of realism to the appearance of the film, Peterson did some extraordinary things. The first being he spent much of the film's $15 million budget on building replacement submarines. He commissioned the original manufacturer to build a new full-size, seaworthy replica along with a second full-size model for interior shots and 3 more scale models for special effects work. He also refused to follow the modern technique of opening up a side of the sub to get better filming angles and filmed in a tight sub. The rebuilding of the sub makes every exterior shot look absolutely beautiful and like it was taken straight from World War II. The multiple elements enacted by the crew of Das Boot all contribute to the film looking very realistic. Well, it appears we are out of time, folks. It has been my genuine pleasure to host the show today. I hope you have learned something about submarine films. This is Bob John signing off. Good night, and God bless.